Welcome back to Avarice. I'm going to talk about a few things I've changed since the last video. So starting right off the bat here, I want to talk about my tutorial text. Since that last video, I've added controller input, and if you press any of the inputs besides the joystick inputs, it changes the text to the respective controller inputs. Now, it doesn't work with the joystick controller inputs because Unity thinks that like arrow keys and WSD along with the joystick are just one thing. So I would have to go and separate them out within Unity and then change all my code, which is obviously not very high on my list of priorities right now. So I just deal with it. That being said, though, I did add UI elements to some of the UIs that pop up around the level. Like, for instance, picking up this pile of treasure now prompts you to press right bumper rather than just pressing E the entire time, like if you're using keyboard controls. So, swap back. So that's cool. The moving boxes later on in the level also have the same prompt. So I added that just to make the level, or I guess the game, a little more readable, I guess would be the word to use there. With this area right here, you still have the default path of, climbing up the log, making the jump, and going on to the next area. However, I also added a side path here that leads to the exact same area, but I just wanted to give the player a little bit more choice, despite it still going to the exact same place. My purpose, the goal rather, that I had set out for this section right here was to make it feel like a tighter space, so when you eventually came out to this area, if it made it feel just a little bit bigger than it really is. As you can tell, there's a path above where the log leads if you go back, so I had the upper path cross over this lower path essentially. However, the upper path is longer. The lower path is more of a shortcut, really. I did want to add a little bit of challenge, like having to jump over some thorns for a little bit more of a precise jump. However, I'm not extremely happy with it, so I may come back and change that. Here, the goal here. Ooh, my goodness, what a jump! The goal here was you had to climb on these like headstones, the gravestone, and you had to essentially precision platform your way across until you got down to this bottom ring, which is your destination. Now here is where I spent majority of my time. This is, as you know, this is one of my enemies in my game. I messed around with AI a lot. So initially, they would just run straight up to the player and try to attack him as soon as possible. Now, they sort of like hover around, and if the player gets close, they kind of like back up a bit, and they wait a certain amount of time, and then they attack. So, right now, like one enemy is not very dangerous, unless it does that. That's a bug that I discovered recently. It wasn't doing it before, as all bugs do. But yeah, so they're more dangerous in packs, as I feel smaller enemies should be. Moving on, I also changed most of the transparent blocks in the level to like some gated stuff. It just looks nicer in my opinion. Moving on, grab this treasure here. To show off another bug in my game, I currently have an issue with treasure in my game, so I just took away one of the piles, and they are now just ignoring the other pile. That is a issue that I believe I can solve by just honestly completely redoing this tutorial. I don't think it's needed. I think I can do it better. It'll probably be changed by the next video. So here's our first site of a moving block. You had the UI. Now, I'm able to pull this immediately, but when the playtest happen, the players will have to go and get an item before they can do that. So let's run off to the area. I'm just going to use this as a shortcut. So if we jump down, this light was already here, but the item's new. I've added the ability to pick up the item from the pedestal, and this gives them the ability to now move blocks. Beforehand, you shouldn't be able to. Emphasis on should. I've seen some interesting things today. Moving on. Ooh, like this. This one wants to be a little fishy. Sometimes the timing of moving blocks is variable. It's interesting. Moving on. A little bit of the AI here. If I leave their range for a long enough amount of time, they eventually return. Like you saw that one in the background return. They all just eventually go home back to where their spawn was. Unless you're that unfortunate guy who just decided to rub his body on some thorns and die. That's cool. What else? Okay, this area right here, not much has changed. I added a environmental hazard in the center just to make the area a little more interesting. Make the sort of like mini puzzle that happens there a little more interesting as well. If you remember, there's a block that I can go and show off along with my big enemy. There's a block up here that the player has to drop down to get to the next area. This is my big enemy. Ooh, he smacked me immediately. Currently, he's a pushover because I just changed his AI to the brain system, and it currently has none of its settings set up, which is perfectly fine. So as you can kind of tell, let's see if I can actually kill these guys, because there's only 2 of them. How bad could it be, right? Ooh, turns out really bad. I'm going to go grab this fountain. Please don't hurt me. Alright, run back. Got these mans. The avoidance of the thorns is a little iffy. I need to go and... Whoa. Like I said, I have some bugs. Where do you think he went? He'll make his way back. Let's do this real quick. So rather than just having it in a straight line, I'm forcing the player to essentially move around the new thorn bush, which is good. I just think I could probably do a better job here in general. Let's kill this man. Ooh, yikes. Hit me. But yeah, that's the general gist. I haven't spent too much thought on it. It's on my to-do list. I just thought putting more time on AI was a better idea. You've also noticed up there, I've mostly changed this area to be a little, like, that upper area to be a little thicker, so this area isn't as big. I still feel there's still some scale issue, at least on the puzzle side, that I could probably fix. I already showed the other area in the last video, so let me go to the right side that I have now currently fixed. So once we get here, you'll notice that the blocks are a little bigger, and essentially the player is forced, I'll fix this, obviously the area needs to be revamped a little bit, but the player is going to be forced to push this block in to proceed, to emphasis, hey, these blocks can be pushed into the thorns to create a path, essentially. So then they move on, notice, hey, path, I can't go forward, I need to go somewhere else. So the only open path they can go is up here now. And I'm just going to try to skirt around these guys, push this block in, and if I was doing an art pass, there'd be an animation of this block being slid into the center, like down this ramp, and lands in there. And you can tell at the bottom of your screen that's where it's landed. And essentially, that should be enough information to the player to be like, okay, I'm creating my path forward. Alright, that one guy in the corner, he's not very happy about it. Just left his friends. It's good, it's good. Moving on. This area feels kind of garbo. Probably gonna have to, do something here. I have some ideas, but we'll see. Moving on. This area was actually pretty revamped before last video, actually. I changed a lot while I was fixing it. There used to be 3 blocks you had to push in, like there was one on that bridge I just crossed previously, but I decided that just doesn't really feel that good. Ooh. Ooh. Oh my goodness, the slaps. These big enemies, dude. I kind of like how aggressive they are right off the bat, at the same time. Dang. Really good use of the bars here, I think. The transparent texture that was here before, that you see right there, was very bad. I did not like it. Alright, we gotta use a little bit more of that. I kind of want to add a little bit more of like stuff like this to the level, because it's better than just jumping in a straight line, I guess. Now, if you remember the puzzle on the opposite side, this is practically the same thing. The player just has to push the block in. A visual effect will pop out saying, "Hey, you did it," and the fountain turns blue. Once the fountain turns blue, that is supposed to be their signal to head back to the hub, where those two white lights were, along with the gray gate. However, what I'm missing here is the guidance to instruct the player to head back. I'm still thinking about that one. So let's head back real quick, like. I wonder, I'm going to do something real stupid. Oh, okay, it worked out. So, my game has like a super jump if you combine the dodge roll and the jump, which I found people really like. So I was like, okay, I'll just keep it. Now, obviously, we can't open this until the other puzzle is finished. So I'm just going to throw us up there real quick. Whoop, that's not good. Let's see this. Oh, I've grabbed the art. That's bad. Don't ever grab the art. Okay. So this represents the crest that the player has been searching for this entire time. This entire area up here needs to be revamped. I think it doesn't emphasize why the player's there enough. So prepare for that to not completely change, just like I say completely change a lot. I just need to change how the information's being given to the player. Give them a bigger emphasis. Now, once the player picks up that crest, knowing that they can't backtrack due to that drop when they entered into the cemetery, they only have one way to go, since all the other paths were also dead ends that just lead back to the hub. So this is the only path they have, and they're met with a single fountain. This area is obviously pretty blank. I'm not 100% sure what I'm doing with it yet, but something will be happening. Rest assured. They head down this ramp, and they enter into a amphitheater. Excuse me, something in my throat. Yeah, they enter into an amphitheater, which is just a gauntlet for combat, essentially. Ooh, that was cool. So they essentially... Oh, yikes. Well, that's a bad one on me. Let's move back to this area. So, essentially, there's a bunch of enemy spawns, as you can see here, and they have to path their way up, out, and back into the starting area where they'll drop down here. And once they enter back into the starting area, that's when the game is over, because the player has gotten out of the cemetery. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Is there anything else I'm missing here? The level overall is very untouched, besides this area here and this area here, because like I said, I was mostly focusing on AI. But other than that, I believe that's it. These errors concern me, but we'll get to that. The game just crashes when you die. It's fine. It's bad. Anyway, I believe that's it. So I think I'm going to end it here.